Sound speeds, and welcome back to another episode of the Speed Bumps Podcast, the podcast that takes place during my drive home from set. Gatorade. Here's a fun little story. Let's start off with that. No different, still Insta360 X3 as the camera, still the Deity W-Lab Pro providing the sound and recording on a BPT-RX. There you go. So, a little quick story here. Whenever I am handed one of these Gatorades that comes out of a cooler, I always have to tear off the wrapper on it. The reason why is you see these little ridges right there? Those catch the water. So that way, if it's in a cooler, it will be colder for you. But another thing that happens is the cold water gets inside of there, it holds it against the side, helps it to stay cooler longer. But the problem that I run into is I take this Gatorade, I stick it in my back pocket. I never put down my drinks on set. I always respect the set and the on-set dressers too much to put any of my stuff down on their sets. I always put it on my boom caddy, or I keep it in my pockets or in my chest rig. Now, the reason this is important is because there was a show I did, I think it was 2010, that I put one of these in my back pocket. I always tear those things off. At the time, though, I did not tear off the outside wrapper. But the reason why is because you stick it in your back pocket, it squishes one of these a little bit tight, and then the water drains down, and you get water all over you from the cooler. But in this particular circumstance, the reason I started tearing them off, in addition to getting wet, is because I got, it was kind of funny. I put the Gatorade rather, after taking a sip, I stuck it in my back pocket. And then I start to feel my back pocket go a little bit wet. Thought it was just the water from the cooler, no problem. But over the course of a few minutes, I was like, wait a minute, why am I feeling like it trickled down my leg? It was basically trickling down from the inside of my pocket. It was going into my shorts and trickling down my leg. I take it out of my pocket and I realize that the Gatorade had a little bitty leak in the bottom of it. So it started to actually leak down my leg. Worse yet, it was yellow. So now, of course, I'm on set and I have a trickle of yellow going down my leg, which of course means that I'm like self-conscious. I'm like, oh crap, people are going to think that I peed in my pants. But it ended up being kind of funny. Nobody ended up noticing, because it was apparently one of those things that you feel and it feels worse than it actually is. It was like a drop or something, but I still was like, oh yikes. You know, I was like very aware of this happening. I'm like looking down and I'm like trying to make it look like I'm looking at my shoe. And in the meantime, what I'm actually doing is looking at the back part of my leg to see where it's dripping down, because I knew it was from the Gatorade. So after that, basically, I always tear these things off so that way no more water gets on this. I shake it off as I take my sip. And then when I put it in my back pocket, if I feel any moisture on the inside of the pocket, more than just a little bit of like condensation, I will instantly take that bottle out, drain it, and then throw it away, because I don't want to have that happen again. Let's get into our first topic. For the first topic, I thought I would discuss why I don't like USB microphones. Well, it's not just because I'm a sound pro and pro microphones have to have XLRs, because we're starting to gravitate away from that. For example, the Konos microphone has a Cat 5 cable or Cat 6 connected up to the back of it, and it has, I think, 70 different microphone elements on the inside that you can basically use Dante to control the pattern of the microphone, and basically by doing that, the directionality of it. You can actually pull 3 different microphone feeds. You can pull a regular feed down the barrel, you can play the ambience off axis, or I think it's a mixture of the two. So it's going to either be, you know, noise free, the noise, or the way it actually would sound based on that pattern. You can change patterns. So I think 3 different options, at least as I've seen the demos. Haven't heard in person though. Despite them coming out to Atlanta and doing a demo, I was not available that day. Okay, USB microphones, plain and simple. They serve a purpose, and that purpose is to basically get people into the world of sound in a very simple way. The only real USB microphone that I actually use is the Samson Q2U. I was introduced to that from Andrew Scott over at Podcastage, and here's the thing. It is a hybrid. It is a USB and it is an XLR microphone out. The reason I don't mind endorsing that is because, first of all, it sounds good, plus I like that feature set. If you were trying to get into something like podcasting, first of all, it sounds very pleasant. It's a dynamic microphone, so it actually is able to, because it has a reduced frequency response, it's able to take out and eliminate some of the sounds that you would not normally hear and would be affected by on set, like some of the deeper frequencies that a condenser will pick up. But then it's also the highs. You're not going to be able to hear as many of that, like computer fans and stuff like that. It's going to dissipate that a little bit too. So that helps. If you're just trying to get into the world of podcasting, why bother spending a whole bunch of money but still get yourself something good? Then get a Q2U, because you can still put that close mic it, back it off a little bit, whatever you want, overhead with it, whatever you want to do, make it sound good, but you can still go out a USB directly into your computer and not have to buy anything else. It's a one-stop shop. But one thing you'll notice is if you go XLR out of it, it sounds a little bit different depending on what you plug up to. And the reason why is because if you go out of the microphone via digital through a USB cable, you're using its own internal analog digital converter. And if you are going out analog, then you're going out analog just from the capsule itself. The microphone, when I last looked at it, it's like 70 or 80 bucks. Not a whole lot of money. And at that price point, it's better than it really deserves to be. I know they have the Q9U or whatever the 9 version is. There's other microphones out there. I know AT, Audio-Technica, has 2 different hybrid microphones. I don't like personally the way either one of those sound though. I like the Q2U. It's a darker sound. Personally, I like the way it sounds in my voice better. You've heard it in some of the earlier videos I did on this channel. I used it for some voiceovers. It might have been, I think I used it in my 32-bit floating point episode. I believe I did the voiceover with the Q2U. I might be mistaken. There's a couple of voiceovers I did that I did the Q2U with, and unfortunately I didn't write it down, so I don't know which one I did and which. Maybe if I went back and listened to the raw audio, I might say it at the beginning as I'm setting everything up. Who knows? Okay, a hybrid type microphone like that, if you get a good quality microphone and it has a built-in analog digital converter, you're stuck with the quality of that converter and its ability to turn sound into digital. It is stuck at whenever it was made, it was stuck in that at that point in time. And if the analog digital converter ever starts to go bad, if it ever starts to get noisy, if there's a new technology develops and ADCs get better, it's going to be something that is going to become outdated by basically just by being tech. If it goes out, you're going to lose the ability to use your microphone if you buy a straight USB that does not have an analog out also. That's the reason why the Q2U I will actually endorse, because it's a good stepping stone. You can start off with it as a USB. If you want to spend a little bit more on your sound, you want to get a different type of interface, a microphone USB audio interface rather, you can get that plug up to an XLR and go straight in via a USB audio interface, and it will sound better going out analog, where the microphone's just concentrating on being the microphone, and then it goes into the interface where it just concentrates on being an interface. You're probably going to have better sound in many circumstances than you would be if you went straight out via digital. Now, it still sounds good digital, and I've used it a couple of times for like voice chats and stuff. If I travel, I will sometimes just take the Q2U and a USB cable and I'll throw it in my bag, and that way I can connect it to my laptop. Very plain and simple. I'm able to do that. I think the last time I did that was a couple of years ago when I jumped in a voice chat. Thought about doing a live stream, but I don't think I did. I don't think when I did the live stream, I was actually at Dollywood with my family and I did a live stream. I didn't tell people where I was at the time, but it's been months now. I think it was in 2021 I went to Dollywood. I think it was then. And when I went there, we had a season pass for like a year. Because we'll get different season passes for places and go and like heavy hit it for like a year, and then get another pass to someplace else for a year and do that. We rotate around. Haven't been to Dollywood in a long time. I should go back there. You may say, oh, it's a redneck place. No, it's not actually. It's Dolly Parton. She cares about customer service. She cares about a good experience. She cares about people. She loves people. And therefore, she's made a place that's a very pleasant place. It's nice. It's really good. If you've never been there, in the Great Smoky Mountains, it's beautiful up there. It's got, it's right outside Pigeon Forge, and it's a little farther away from Gatlinburg, which is just completely nuts now. Past 30 years, it's gone crazy out there in Gatlinburg. Now it's this tourist trap and whatever else. It used to be different. I feel like such an old fella saying, I wish the way it used to be. But anyway, so USB microphones. I go in circles all over the place, don't I? But that's why you guys keep coming back and listening to more. It's like, get to the topic. Well, if you stay with me, you'll realize that all the rabbit holes I usually go down is because I'm giving you additional information that it's not easy to find elsewhere. Okay. USB microphones. I was talking about those. Okay. So if the analog digital converter goes out, your microphone becomes dead if it's a regular USB. If it becomes noisy, if it becomes has has an issue. Sometimes analog digital converters will clip before the microphone clips. Sometimes they're not going to. Sometimes the microphone will clip before the ADC, in which case it doesn't matter if you go analog or digital out, it's still going to clip it the same way because it clips the capsule before it clips the ADC. So usually what I would do, I would say is if you're going to start off with a microphone, get the Q2U because it's a good stepping stone. That way you can just buy things. You can see how you will like a microphone. If you want to get a different type of microphone for a podcast or for your home recording, then you can upgrade that or change it over. But if you start with the Q2U, then go Q2U analog out into an interface if you want to buy one of those, and then it's going to sound much better. But in plain and simple, a lot of the time USB microphones are cheaper. Not always. There's some that are very well. Austrian Audio has a really good one that you can change to digitally create a sound signature of different microphones. Like the Berlin 87. What could that possibly be? The Berlin 103. What could that possibly be? Anyway, so if a microphone is basically a one-stop shop for all components, usually they are not made with premium components. And in order to get a USB microphone that sounds decent, it has to basically sacrifice someplace. And that is a one-stop shop for something, and there's probably not going to be great, it's going to be good. Usually what happens is you'll have a USB microphone. People have a tendency of sticking them down on a table or someplace where it's not going to sound good acoustically. Even if they put it on an arm, they don't position it right. It's going to be too far away. It's going to pick up all the tapping. It's going to be really weird sounding. Microphone technique is not the same if you use it on some microphones as others. So you might need to, you'll see people with worse practices using USB microphones because they're still learning. Even if you have a USB microphone, you can make it sound good, but still, it will sound better if you use a better interface going out analog. USB microphones have a tendency of using cheaper components that will actually just work and function. Most of the ones that I'm familiar with that are more inexpensive, you can get a better non-USB microphone if you get it analog, and it's going to have better components because it's not trying to pack everything in to one little bitty microphone, including digital, an analog digital converter that goes out. The capsule, there's no sacrifices on that. If you buy an actual microphone that goes out analog, it is just going to be analog. Now, the one catch you might have is that if you use a cheap XLR cable out, you may end up having a problem with it being picked up correctly if you use a bad cable and there's noise introduced. If you go out via digital, via USB cable, for example, you can run it over it a whole bunch of noise sources, but it's already converted digital. So as long as those sounds come in on your recorder interface or mixer, and you're able to hear those sounds as a beep, 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 the zeros and ones, as long as it's able to pick that up, it doesn't matter how much analog noise there is in the line, it's not looking for that. It's already digitally converted, therefore you're not adding noise to it. So that's a digital thing for it versus analog. Use a premium cable, it's not going to be that big of a deal. You're not going to be affecting your noise floor. Plus, you can upgrade your microphone anytime you want. You can upgrade your interface anytime you want. USB microphones usually sound more hollow. They usually don't sound nearly as focused. They'll sound very boomy usually. The detail is lower. The Yeti, to me, what it will do is it will boost up certain frequencies. It will sound crispy at times. Part of that, just the way it sounds to me, it sounds usually pretty cheap. If you listen to it, most of the time though, I'll try to just turn off my critical listening ear, and someone that will say, hey, how do I sound? And I'll listen, and I'm like, yeah, you sound fine, or whatever. I'm not really engaging. If you really asked me, I would probably be more critical, but I don't like to turn on that ear unless I really absolutely have to. Okay, but basically in a nutshell, I don't like it. It's a one-stop shop for all the sound coming in and out of a microphone. I would much prefer to have separate components where they're at least you're able to isolate it and concentrate on using better premium components inside of a microphone. And if it goes out, if the ADC goes out, you're not having to throw away your microphone because it's basically useless in a nutshell. For our second topic, I thought we would discuss improving your accuracy and access if you're a boom operator. Okay, you have a microphone. You need to point it in certain directions and be able to nail that access at every single time. First thing I'm going to point out is corrective lenses like glasses. They curve around the outside. It will usually, or at least I shouldn't say usually, that's not necessarily fair. It may distort your depth perception. So if you wear glasses, then you need to be aware that that may be a reality that you're going to have to deal with. There's a couple of techniques I'll have to show in an upcoming video that will help you if you have depth perception issues, that will help you overcome it. But the main thing I want you to concentrate on is working on that. One of the ways you do that and improve the accuracy, if you have corrective lenses, or maybe you just have a depth perception issue, is when you're looking down a boom pole, your eyes are very close to that boom pole. And so you need to be able to look down that and see depth perception, see how far away something is. A lot of the time we're looking into the brightest light because that's our main light, and we're down the barrel, we're down across from that because our shadow will be cast more back upon us. So we won't get on the other side where we're casting a shadow all over everything across the room. We're going to be on the opposite side of the main light because we're able to at least be, your shadows are casting back towards you. But that means we're looking into silhouettes. Silhouettes are harder to determine the distance away from something, just like it is if you close one eye and try to determine how far away somebody is, because there's a lot of detail in someone's features that are being lost. Now, if you are using glasses and you're trying to find out where someone is, or even if you're not and you're trying to see how far away somebody is, you must absolutely listen. Listening is key. You're going to be able to hear how far away someone is if you're listening. And if you don't listen, you're missing out because you need to be listening. Okay, now I've addressed that. Moving on. So if you're wanting to improve your accuracy, what I would usually suggest people to do is take a mag light and stick it inside of a shock mount. Extend it out, and you can kind of see the general pattern that it falls and creates in light where your microphone pattern is. Now that may help you to kind of determine where something is, but it's not necessarily going to help you if you have a microphone that's out. Have someone stand across from you and look at you, not the microphone, as you extend it out. Because if they look up at the microphone, you'll see it coming, and that means their head's going to go up and track with it, and they're going to say, okay, when their head is here, you know the microphone is right above them. That's cheating. Have them make eye contact with you and not look at the microphone, and you try to boom them. I would actually suggest you can get little bitty flashlights that actually have a clip-on ring. You can take that ring, put it around a microphone. So that way you boom them with the microphone, but then what you do is once you're in position, you tell the person that you're booming to turn on the light. So what they'll do is they'll turn on the light that's basically snapped onto the end of your microphone, and you're able to create a little pattern of light, and you're able to see where that is. Now, if you're a foot short, 2 feet short, or you're behind the person, most of the time people are short. They're too short. The person, you should ideally boom them with a microphone above your mouth here, but they're actually like way out here in front. But because your voice goes out there, it still is picking up the pattern. Sometimes you're within that pattern still, and it still sounds okay, even though you're a foot or so off axis. Believe me, I've been there way in the past. All right, so if a microphone is over you, what you would do is as soon as you say, okay, I believe I'm right over top of you, have them flip on that little light and see where that microphone that's connected up to see where the light connected to the microphone pattern falls. The light will pattern and illuminate something, and if it's off of your mouth completely, off of the mouth of the person you're booming, then you know it could be better. You know that you should probably increase your accuracy by bringing it closer. You can put a mag light inside of it, but then you're just relying on visual the entire time, and it's great. And I think I did that in the Deity how to boom reaction video. I think they discussed that, but I usually would prefer to get one of those little clip-on rings that has a light built onto it. It's designed for you to put on a finger, but put that on your microphone. That way you can be turned on and off. That way, once you're in position, you say, okay, turn on the light, please. They turn on the light. You realize that you're on axis because you're illuminating this part of the face, or you're off axis and you're not lighting up anything. You're able to see it pretty well instantly. Another thing, and this is going to require whoever you're booming to actually close your eyes, if you want to do it, is you could put a laser pointer inside of a shock mount, but then you're back to the same way as you were before with the mag light, basically illuminating one little bitty point. Now, what you can do with this is practice tracing walls, trace around the border of a door, go down, trace around something else, or if you're doing a walk and talk and you want to practice a smooth and staying on axis, what you can do is tell someone to basically put their hand up like this, and that way they're only looking down at the ground, the microphone is up and it's not going to hit their eyes, and have them walk forward. That way they can still safely see below them, but the microphone should be hitting their hand at all times. So that way, if you do this number, you're able to basically block out their eyes from being hit, and they're able to safely see the ground, and they're able to walk. As you walk up backwards, as you walk forward, whatever, your laser pointer is hitting their hand and staying on their hand the whole time. If you want it to be a little bit higher and away, you can be. I would suggest just doing this number and blocking out anything above your eyebrows, basically, because you don't need to have them accidentally hit your eyes with a laser. That's not acceptable. That's going to be damaging to their eyes. So that will that practice right there when practicing a walk and talk, backing up, basically booming someone's hand, and put the pole out 12, 15 feet, just like it would be if you had a camera guy in front of you and their dolly group was leading them and kind of spotting them. You're able to at least see where that is. Tracer on the edges of walls. Now, another thing that I will do is I'll take a microphone and I'll put it in a boom, and I'll look at something across the room, and I'll say, that right there. It'll be an empty cup someplace 15 feet away. And what I'll do is I'll swing the boom over there and step in and do whatever movements I need to in order to position the boom what I believe to be directly on top of that microphone. Then what I'll do is I'll drop it, and if the microphone goes right inside that cup or maybe touches the rim ever so slightly, it's going to be good. Here's something to keep in mind though. If you do that and you hold the microphone up above something, as you start to drop it, it curves, it arches. So it may be on axis there, but as soon as you drop it, it's going to curve downwards and might miss, and therefore if it hits the inside rim of that cup, you probably win. So throw the boom out there, try to get it about a foot or so away, and then if you want to, drop it in axis straight down, in line, straight down, and you're going to see where it lands. That trick will help you. What I will do is I'll sling it around, stick it inside of a cup, pick it up, swing it around, stick it and touch the top of a paper towel roll holder that we have in the kitchen. I'll swing it around and I'll touch the corner of the sofa. I'll swing it around, touch the top of a lamp. Swing it around a different way and touch the edge and angle in, and I'll touch the edge of a fireplace, the corner of a fireplace. That kind of thing will help you train in your accuracy. So these are a couple of ideas for you that will really help dial it in. I'm going to do a future video probably on microphone technique and exactly for boom operators. It will show various different techniques in that video, and in doing so, I will demonstrate these techniques and show you why it's important for you to swing around and practice, and what basically will happen if you practice and how you're able to swing it around and nail something on axis every single time. So there you have it, another episode of the Speed Bumps podcast in the can. I'm starting to enjoy that phrase. Whether I should or should not, I'm still enjoying it. Okay, if you would like to record the outro, there's details about that down in the description. Please follow directions. Otherwise, don't be surprised if I say no, I'm going to be using something else. All right. I will see you in 2 weeks with another episode of the Speed Bumps podcast. Hopefully you get a lot of information out of this. I'm still studying this and watching this. We'll see if we want to continue forward with the Speed Bumps podcast in the future. We will see. But regardless, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in 2 weeks.
If you'd like to ask a sound-related question to be answered in a future episode, send text, audio, or video to ssp@soundspeeds.us. Want to record this outro? Details in the description below. Find us on social media and online at www.soundspeeds.us. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more sound-related content.